This level of political mismanagement is beyond embarrassing. It's outright dangerous. Starmer's leadership has gone from uninspiring to outright catastrophic. His inability to connect with the electorate, address the most pressing issues, and maintain consistency in policy is proof that he is woefully unfit for the position he holds. His Christmas speech disaster was not just a PR blunder. It was a clear indication of his complete detachment from the struggles of ordinary citizens. While families are grappling with skyrocketing living costs, the Labour leader chose to deliver vague platitudes about peace in the Middle East, a noble sentiment, sure, but one that feels utterly irrelevant when the people he's supposed to represent are struggling to heat their homes. This is a man who doesn't seem to understand the gravity of the problems facing the UK. His party is hemorrhaging credibility while reform groups like Reform UK are surging ahead, capitalising on Labour's failure to listen to the electorate. Reform's rise, with its sharp increase in membership, is a direct slap in the face for Starmer and his party. Yet, instead of addressing this, Labour officials like Harriet Harman have the audacity to call reform a threat to democracy, even as Labour's own actions reek of authoritarianism. Starmer has shown no willingness to engage with the real concerns of the people. Instead, he's acting like a leader who believes he knows better than the electorate, dismissing their concerns while his party's support crumbles beneath him. And then there's his foreign policy blunders, particularly his disastrous approach to China. This is a leader who once promised to stand firm against Chinese aggression, only to now backtrack with a pragmatic trade plan that reeks of desperation and naivety. Starmer's sudden pivot from confrontation to appeasement isn't just confusing, it's downright alarming. By prioritizing trade deals over national security, he's playing a dangerous game that could have devastating consequences for the UK. Critics from across the political spectrum have lambasted his recklessness, pointing out the glaring inconsistencies in his approach. How can the British public trust a leader who flip-flops so easily on issues of such critical importance? The situation with the Chagos Islands is perhaps the most glaring example of his incompetence. Starmer's absurd proposal to transfer sovereignty over this strategically vital territory while somehow maintaining control of its military base is laughable at best and a national security risk at worst. His naivety in believing that such a deal would be accepted highlights his fundamental misunderstanding of international diplomacy. The fallout has been immediate and severe, with US officials reportedly furious at the implications for their national security. This isn't just a diplomatic misstep, it's an act of gross negligence that undermines Britain's strategic position in the Indian Ocean, especially at a time when China is aggressively expanding its global influence. Starmer's inability to handle foreign policy is matched only by his failure at home. The hypocrisy of a man worth millions, who enjoys a household income far beyond what most Britons can ever dream of, lecturing the public on painful budgets and stripping away essential benefits from pensioners is nothing short of disgusting. How can someone who claims to represent the working class justify taking £17,000 in freebies while pensioners are robbed of £300 in winter fuel payments? This isn't leadership, it's a slap in the face to every struggling family in the UK. His actions epitomise the one rule for them, another for us mentality that has bred so much discontent with the political elite. The Labour leader's handling of the economy is equally shambolic. Instead of offering solutions, he delivers empty rhetoric and vague promises. His party's failure to address the cost of living crisis, spiraling energy prices, and mounting public sector strikes has left the country in chaos. People are fed up, and rightfully so. Starmer's lack of vision, coupled with his inability to inspire confidence, has left Labour floundering at a time when strong leadership is desperately needed. But instead of stepping up, he's retreating, jetting off for yet another holiday while the country burns. The nickname Never Hear Cave says it all. He's absent when it matters most, leaving the British public to fend for themselves. Critics have compared Starmer's leadership to Orwellian absurdity, and they're not wrong. His actions reflect a disturbing disconnect from reality, where he seems more concerned with maintaining appearances than actually solving problems. Whether it's his bungled Christmas message, his dangerous foreign policy gambits, or his failure to address domestic crises, Starmer has shown time and again that he is out of his depth. The British public deserves better than a leader who prioritizes optics over action, who ignores the real issues in favor of empty gestures, and who seems utterly incapable of making the tough decisions that leadership requires. The question now is, how much longer can Starmer cling to power? With his approval ratings plummeting, his party divided, and his credibility in tatters, it's only a matter of time before the cracks become too large to ignore. The rise of alternative parties like Reform UK is a clear sign that the public is losing faith in the political establishment. Starmer's inability to connect with voters, coupled with his repeated failures on both domestic and international fronts, has left Labour in a precarious position. If he doesn't change course, and quickly, Labour risks becoming irrelevant, a party of empty promises and failed leadership. Starmer's leadership has become a cautionary tale of what happens when a leader loses touch with the people they are supposed to serve. His failures are not just political missteps, they are betrayal of the British public's trust. The country deserves a leader who understands their struggles, who listens to their concerns, and who has the courage to make the tough decisions. Starmer has proven, time and again, that he is not that leader. The question now is, how much longer will the British public tolerate his incompetence? Because one thing is clear, change is desperately needed.